You've probably noticed something recently. Fuel is getting expensive again. Like, not small increase. I mean the kind that makes you pause for a second at the fuel station. You just stand there and you're like, wait, didn't I just buy this cheaper a few days ago? And the funny thing is, everybody already has an answer. It's the economy. Things are just hard now. Everything is going up. And yeah, that sounds reasonable. But if we're being honest, that explanation doesn't really explain anything because fuel is not like other things. It doesn't just gradually increase and stay there. Sometimes it jumps suddenly. And when it does, there's usually a reason behind it. A real reason. Not the general things are expensive explanation. And right now, something else is happening in the background. Something most people are not paying attention to, but it's already affecting the price you are paying because tensions between countries like the United States, Iran and Israel are quietly building up again. And whether you follow the news or not, this kind of situation always has a way of affecting one thing: oil. And once oil is affected, everything else follows. How does something happening far away end up affecting how much you pay for fuel right now? And why does it feel like this keeps happening over and over again? Now, if you ask people why fuel price is going up, most people won't even think too deep about it. They just give you the normal answers. It's inflation. Everything is expensive now. That's just how things are these days. And honestly, it even sounds correct. Because if you look around, everything really is going up. Like, think about it. The same amount of money you were using before, it doesn't even stretch the same way again. So it's easy to just believe fuel is part of that same problem. But here's the thing, fuel is not like bread, it's not like food, it's not even like transport fare. Those ones can increase slowly over time and you will understand it. But fuel can just wake up one morning and change price. No warning, no gradual increase, just like that. And when that kind of sudden change happens, it's usually not just inflation. There's always something else behind it, something bigger than what's happening in your own country. Because at the end of the day, fuel comes from oil. And oil is not just any normal product. Oil is one of those things that the whole world depends on. And because of that, anything that even looks like a problem can affect the price immediately. Not next week, not next month, immediately. Oil prices don't only react to what is happening, they react to what might happen. Even the possibility alone is enough to move the price. So now imagine this, something is happening somewhere in the world and people start thinking, what if this affects oil supply? That what if is already enough to start pushing prices up. So now the real question is, what exactly is going on right now that is making people think like this? So what exactly is going on right now that is making people uneasy about oil? Because this thing didn't just happen randomly. There's always something behind it. And right now, the tension is coming from one very important part of the world, the Middle East. Now, normally when people hear Middle East tension, it just sounds like one of those regular news headlines. Something you hear and just move on. But this time, it's a bit different because of the countries involved. You have the United States, you have Israel, and then you have Iran. Now, this is not just small countries arguing. These are countries that have influence, military power, and strong positions in global politics. So anytime there's even a little tension between them, people start paying attention. Not just regular people. I'm talking about investors, traders, governments, the people that actually control how oil is bought and sold. It doesn't even have to turn into a full war. That's what most people get wrong. It's not about whether war has started or not. It's about the possibility that something could happen. You start hearing things like, there might be a strike, there could be a retaliation, things are escalating. And once those kinds of conversations start, the market begins to react. Because from their own point of view, they are not waiting to see what will happen. They are trying to move before it happens. And when they start moving, that's when prices begin to shift. Not because oil has finished, but because people are trying to protect themselves ahead of time. And this is where it starts to affect you, because once those prices start moving globally, it eventually finds its way down to the floor you are buying. So even if nothing has fully happened yet, the tension alone is already enough to start increasing prices. But even with all this, there's still one part of the story that makes everything make sense, because it's not just about tension, it's about where all of this is happening. Now here's the part that actually makes everything make sense, because at this point you might be thinking, okay, there's tension, but how does that directly affect fuel price? Fair question, and the answer is simple. Location. Not just any location, but where all of this is happening, because the Middle East is not just another region in the world. This is one of the most important places when it comes to oil. A large percentage of the world's oil supply comes from this area. Not small, a significant part of it. So automatically, anything that affects this region has the potential to affect global supply. Now think of it like this. Imagine there is one place where most people get something important from, and suddenly there's tension there. Even if nothing has happened yet, once people start worrying, when they start thinking, what if something goes wrong? That's exactly what's happening here, and it gets even deeper than that, because it's not just about where the oil is coming from, it's also about how the oil is moving. There are certain routes, certain channels that oil has to pass through to reach the rest of the world, and some of these routes are very close to where all this tension is happening. So now imagine this, even the possibility that those routes could be affected is enough to make people nervous, because once those routes are disrupted, supply reduces, and once supply reduces, price goes up. It's that simple. So when traders and investors are watching all this, they are not waiting for anything to actually happen. They're already thinking ahead. What if supply drops? What if movement becomes difficult? What if things escalate? And once those thoughts start coming in, prices begin to adjust even before anything physically changes. So at this point, it's no longer just about tension between countries. It's about the risk of disrupting something the whole world depends on. And that risk alone is enough to affect what you're paying for fuel right now. But even with all that, there's still one part most people don't fully understand, and that's how fear alone can move prices even when nothing has actually gone wrong yet. Now this is the part that surprises a lot of people, because you would think prices only go up when something actually goes wrong, like oil supply reduces, pipelines are affected, something serious happens, then price increases. That's what most people expect, but that's not how it works, not really, because when it comes to oil, fear alone is enough. Let me explain it in a simple way. Imagine you hear that there might be a shortage of something important tomorrow. What's the first thing people do? They rush to get it now, even before the shortage actually happens. And once everybody starts doing that, demand increases immediately. And when demand increases like that, price goes up. Same thing applies here, just on a global scale. When there's tension between countries like the United States, Israel and Iran, people in the oil market start thinking ahead. What if supply is affected? What if transportation becomes risky? What if things escalate quickly? And instead of waiting to find out, they act immediately. They start buying early, adjusting prices, preparing for the worst case scenario. And all of that activity starts pushing the price up. Not because oil has finished, not because supply has already reduced, but because people are reacting to what might happen. That's why sometimes you notice something strange. Prices go up quickly, but when everything calms down, they don't come down at the same speed. Because once that fear enters the market, it takes time to settle. And during that time, you're the one paying more at the fuel station. So at this point, it's clear. It's not just war, it's not just supply. It's the expectations of disruption that's quietly affecting prices. But now the question is, who actually feels this the most? So now let's bring it back to you, because all this talk about oil, tension, global markets, it can still feel a bit far away, like something happening somewhere else. But the truth is, it doesn't stay far for long. It always finds its way back to you. Starting with the most obvious one, fuel. The moment global oil prices start going up, it reflects almost immediately at the fuel station. And once fuel price goes up, that's where the real chain reaction begins. Because fuel is not just something you buy for your car, it affects almost everything around you. Think about transport. Once fuel increases, transport fare goes up. And when transport goes up, the cost of moving goods also goes up. Food, building materials, basic supplies, everything becomes more expensive to move from one place to another. And when that happens, businesses do not absorb that cost, they pass it on to you. So now you're not just paying more for fuel, you're paying more for food, more for transport, more for almost everything. And that's how something happening far away slowly starts affecting your everyday life. Even if you don't follow the news, even if you don't care about global politics, it still reaches you one way or another. And that's why it sometimes feels like no matter what you do, things just keep getting more expensive. Because behind the scenes, there are forces you don't see quietly pushing those prices up. And by the time it gets to you, there's nothing much you can do about it. But even with all this, there's one final part most people don't stop to think about, and that is who actually benefits from all of this. Now, at this point, you can already see how everything connects. Tension rises, fear enters the market, prices go up, and somehow it's you that ends up paying more. If prices are going up like this, then someone somewhere is actually benefiting from it. Because in situations like this, money doesn't just disappear, it moves. And it usually moves towards the people who understand the system the most. Think about it. When prices are rising, there are traders, companies, and even entire economies that are positioned to take advantage of that movement, not necessarily because they caused it, but because they understand how it works. They move early, they prepare ahead, and they profit from the changes. While for the average person, it just feels like things are getting harder. So now when you see fuel prices increase again, it's no longer just things are expensive. You now understand that there's a whole chain behind it, from global tension to market reactions to decisions being made far away from where you are. And all of that eventually leads to that moment where you're standing at the fuel station wondering why the price has changed again. The truth is, it's not random, it's not just bad luck, and it's definitely not as simple as people make it sound. There's always something happening behind the scenes, and once you start to understand it, you stop just reacting to the price and you start seeing the bigger picture.